Okay, so, sorry, let me just repeat. You're gonna, everyone will still be funded at the same level in the current year for personnel.
Correct.
That's correct?
Correct.
Although you have like a $5 million increase in personnel, why is that?
Well, because in the last 2 fiscal years, the ARPA paid for the community maintenance workers, and so we need to keep our 5 maintenance workers and our 7 for the larger villages, and that's what that increase is.
So,
and we're asking to keep all our vacancies.
but it's a $5 million in the general fund allocation for personnel.
Mm-hmm. But that's where else are we going to get the money?
Are you saying, is it to cover raises? Is it?
Oh, no, there's no. We don't get raises.
I guess I'm going to do it again. In 2024, we gave $5 million for personnel.
Right.
Or $7 million, and now you want $12 million for personnel from the general fund.
Well,
I think, Mayor,
no, it's not.
if you look at it on FY23, as the speaker saying, you start with 10 total personnel services, then when 2024 you only got 7, and then we moved to 12 for 25. You're asking for
Oh, I see.
5 million. So
Yeah, it's not.
So if you compare it to the FY23, it's not that big.
It's not that
But
big.
the 24, because you subsidized it with ARP.
Correct.
Okay, got it. All right, so the increase, but, all right. Just a minute. Okay, so FY23, 9, 10, 11, okay. All right, if we compare it to 2023, then the increases are not that drastic. But
Right.
comparing it to FY24, I see.
So we're not asking for it. We have not increased our personnel, the number of personnel per village.
Okay.
We have not increased our admin office. As a matter of fact, we have 3 vacancies that we've asked this body to keep along with the funding. And so I assure the chairman that this fiscal year, by the end of this fiscal year, we would fill all the vacancies in our admin office, and that's our biggest problem right
Okay,
now.
so the personnel, the 5 versus the 7, you say the 7 are for the big villages. That's based on what?
Based on their population.
Population, okay, fine. And then, and we're not increasing personnel. That was one of my questions. All right, that's fine, thank you. And so I just wanted to know though, because Mayor Chargaloff was saying none of these personnel get any increases whether they've served for years and years, but we've seen unclassified directors get increases 3 times in 1 year. And so I'm trying to figure out, they say that's all allowed according to the pay plan. So how would that be allowed for your personnel? Is it based on what the Mayor's Council of Guam decides? Is it like your decision, or is it in a pay plan? I know
It is
they're
part of the pay
unclassified.
plan. It is part of the pay plan.
So if the directors can do it, how come we can't do it for your personnel?
Well, then that would mean we would request more than 12 million
So it's limited by money?
by money.
Well, I don't know how they're doing it either. They're getting
Yeah.
like $10,000 bonuses, increases in base pay.
Yeah, so we have agreed not to increase personnel
Okay.
because of the other.
So it's an agreement in the
It
Mayor's
is,
Council
yeah.
how you're going to distribute your funds.
Correct. But as far as the personnel, I mean, if we have to consider that there's at least 7 to 8 per village that we'd have to adjust, times 19. And so if we adjusted that council-wide, it would be detrimental to our budget. We would have to shuffle significantly. And I don't believe the mayors are willing to do that. Now, we can, admittedly, we have not yet resolved the issue on pay for our staff, but we're happy that they at least received a little increase. I believe it was a year ago. But no, we we don't increase anyone regularly.
Okay, so Mayor Chargaloff, so we're not controlling that except we're giving lump sum, and it's kind of up to the mayor's council to decide whether they pay rent versus staff versus contractual, right?
Correct.
And you want an increase because of contractual and these other things. Contractual is really a big one, and capital outlay now.
Correct, and of course, miscellaneous appropriation this year is important.
Right, miscellaneous.
The 800,000 is for
Yes.
unused lump
Okay,
sum.
and we got that. All right, can you just describe the capital outlay? 2.2 million.
So capital outlay, most of the requirements there or the requests there pertain to village street repair, facility repair, and parks repair. So understanding that most of the damages that were received during Mawar have been perhaps covered by FEMA, not everything is covered by FEMA, and not everything can be fixed with FEMA funds. And so the reason for the increase in capital outlay is to address those issues.
Okay, and you have a list of those?
That is correct.
And that list is approved by the mayor's council, or what's going to happen
No, it
after
is
we
not
pass the
approved.
budget?
Oh, so when the budget is passed, they will be allocated based on their request.
So their requests are approved?
Correct, because it's their request. If we get the budget as is, right?
What if you don't? What if it's less? How are you going to allocate it?
That if it's less, that we would have to go back to the body to ensure, we might have to do it by percentage, I would imagine.
You will make a decision how to allocate it, and you have total authority of how you're going to make that decision.
Correct.
This is where the conflict arises
Correct.
among the mayors.
That is correct.
Among the municipalities.
That is correct.
Because of the big versus small villages. Okay. And so we're not deciding that at this point, right?
Correct.
We're not approving your lists. We're not
No.
even approving how it will be distributed among the villages, except maybe, of course, we're kind of obligated by law to pay personnel.
Right.
Right? Okay. And then, but I understand the reasons for the requested increases, of course, in equipment, supplies, contractual. But I'd like to see the capital improvement list, and if you could just make a note, like FEMA denied or whatever, that would be helpful.
Sure.
And if we could just talk very briefly about the insurance. So, if I know Mayor Savares, you said, will FEMA would not cover certain repairs because the building was not insured. If it was insured, would it be covered for typhoon damage? Is that your expectation too, Mayor Guåhan?
Well, I mean, so her situation is a little different. So when you use FEMA monies to repair something, and then it gets subsequently damaged, FEMA is expecting that insurance will cover a majority of the damage that occurred. And then whatever is not covered by the insurance, they would supplement. But in this case, damage occurred, there was no insurance on it, so that DEDIDO no longer or did not fulfill the requirement for insurance. Ours, on the other hand, is based predominantly on a USDA loan agreement. It's like a bank loan or an SBA loan. You build a house, SBA gives you money to build a house. They require you to insure that home for its face value until the loan is paid off. After that, once it's paid off, it's up to you to decide on whether or not you want to continue the insurance. And if you do, and something happens, you'll get some monies from the insurance to pay for the damages. But if you don't, then you basically are assuming the risk of not being able to recover any costs for damage. So it's self-insured.
Yeah.
But under the USDA loan agreement we have, it has to be insured.
Okay.
Period. It's not an option.
Is there any facility under the Mayor's Council that is insured, that you're paying insurance on?
No.
Okay.
Well, and the other thing I wanted to mention, since you asked about payroll, I mean, I know that the budget that was submitted, and I annotated it on my request. I did ask for 6 additional positions. Basically, in order to stand up this new multi-purpose center, which is 30,000 square feet, You know, there's going to be, and if we, and it's our intent to basically open it Monday through Friday, including holidays, that allows us to be able to provide recreational activities to the community 365 days a year from 6 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. If we don't get the additional personnel requested to operate this new facility, especially in the event that there's a declared emergency, we may not have the personnel to properly manage the activities that we anticipate this facility can provide to the community. And it's not just Ordo Chalampagos, it's the island community. Because as a shelter, this thing actually can, and we've actually laid it out, that can actually accommodate up to 200 shelteries. You know, and that's 10% of that 200 is for persons with special needs. If you look at the FEMA guidelines with regard to sheltering requirements, those with special needs may require or do require an additional square footage of space in order for you to accommodate those needs. And so, based on FEMA requirements, we can handle up to 200 shelteries, Tier 1, and this is at the direct declaration of condition of readiness 2 through the actually emergency, and then when we go back to condition of readiness 4, and until such times as these shelteries can actually go back and try to rebuild their lives from whatever devastation occurred at the time. And so it's important that, I mean, I'm not sure, I know Jesse's good at doing his job, but there was a request for an increase in personnel, specific to our village. That was 6 additional personnel to operate this facility. If we don't get them, that means we may only open up, 4 hours a night, and instead of it being 7 days a week, it may end up being 5 days a week with the staff that we have. Again, this body dictates, and to some extent the council dictates what we can or cannot do, what we are or are able or not able to do. And, I would encourage, because, I mean, this was an exercise and an effort by the mayors who did submit a budget, but, I mean, as I remember Chairman San Agustin, when he was on the Guam Education Policy Board, or the Guam Education Board as it's now called, we were sitting on together during about the same period of time, and he was the chair, and I was the Mayor's Council of Guam rep, and he always wanted to shift, a lump sum budget to the Department of Education down to where it was an individual school budget, so that the principals could manage their funds. And so that's, I believe, how he's, the direction the legislature had gone towards is giving the Department of Education funds, but school specific. I mean, if you requested this amount, you may not get everything, but they're going to, you guys are going to try to give them what they had asked for. And I ask that you do the same. If the mayors had submitted a budget, please ask for what we had requested. And if an allocation of those funds can be based on the budget submission of each individual mayors. Because, again, what happens, you give us a lump sum budget, the council, and it's really the officers, the council and the executive director say, okay, we know we have to pay for personnel. We know we have to pay for utilities. And then whatever special projects are determined that they want to fund in that fiscal year.
Yes, Mayor, but also it's just not that easy, because your village, for example, in Inarohan are getting a separate fund source, right? $150,000. Some of the mayors have non-appropriated funding sources of revenue that have been allowed by law. Some don't have any of those things. So,
absolutely.
So, I mean, we can consider all of those, but then, and DOE hasn't been distributed by school. They're very similar to this situation where it goes to the council and then they divvy it up based on priorities. Like this year might be, the priority to cover your insurance or something like that, versus next year, yeah, I'm not sure. But I'm trying to figure out how we have, I don't know, Mayor Alec, can I ask you, last year, I think we had a spreadsheet that showed us how much each village is getting based on the different formulas, the two formulas now, right? One's by population and the other one by road, and how much they were getting based on that. Now, I guess we're going to have another column that's going to show by request for CIP or whatever other, some of them are personnel, we're seeing, and all of that, right? But we don't have that in front of us right now, unfortunately.
Take a look at the little handout with the pictures on it.
Yes.
There are 4 pages. The second page compares FY 2019 and our
Yes,
FY
but that's-
our FY 2024 at the village level. This fund
Right.
for
Well-
FY 24 is what I know. I gave it to him. So this
No.
particular sheet.
I know, but I'm asking him for 25 versus, I'm going to ask him, my next question is, explain this difference between 2019 and 2024, because I don't think it's as simple as it's being let on either. Part of it, like if you compare 2023, 2024, you're going to see it's less, but in reality, it might be very close because of the ARP funds that covered those costs, right?
Okay, but I'm not sure what document you're referencing.
Okay, we don't have, what I'm telling you right now is we don't have a spreadsheet like we had last year that showed us the different, each village by formula, right? And then this year you're asking for more on top of that, so that would be an additional column of, extra requests. And those are all miscellaneous, all different categories. CIP versus personnel versus insurance versus other things, right? So, and understandably, so I don't have a problem with the different requests, but I just we can't see them. So my question to you, and I'm thinking now, based on your earlier explanation, that if we compare 2023 versus 2025, the differences aren't as large as, they're explainable, right? But it's this 2024 versus 25 it looks like we gave you so much less, but that wasn't really the case. It's because, you didn't get a decrease in personnel. You covered your personnel with ARP.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's why it's hard for me to gauge, did we cut the personnel? No, we didn't, but it's really just hard to follow it based on that alone. So that's why, for me, yeah, the 2019 versus 2024, I don't know, maybe if you can look at this later. So this was submitted by Mayor Gogui, and this is based on general fund, Mayor Gogui? Or Mayor's Council allocation? Yeah, Mayor's Council. Yes, and that could be the other issue, right? We don't know what was skimmed off here versus the budget. So that's all I'm saying is there's other factors in here that
I guess one of the things that I did not consider, Senator, and maybe I should go back and take a look at it. I didn't take a look at the lump sum budget that was allocated in 2019 and compare the percentage difference to 2024. And that would include ARPA, that covered, like Mayor Alec had said. But when it trickles down to the boots on the ground, which is the mayors and our staff that do the work that we expect of them.
I agree.
It was substantial.
This should be explained. I also want to know why 2019 versus 2023, right? And we'll just have to maybe rely on OFB and President to further explain that. Because if there are questions today, there's going to be questions when we get on the floor regarding that. But I have no problem with the individual requests by the mayors. I support that. I just don't want to have another huge fight among the mayor's council because we give you a lump sum and then it gets allocated a certain way and that there is not a consensus as to that. So if there is, I'd like to see that. If there's not, then please explain that to us so we know exactly what we're getting into. Thank you.
Can I say something, Speaker? So, yeah, I am sorry. So, part of the big push for us to put in our individual budgets as mayors is that, we've heard...
we asked you to last year, too.
Well, actually, I asked you guys to challenge us to do this.
No, we want that, so I'm glad to see it.
Yeah, but so anyhow, so we're here at this juncture. This is our very first snap at this. I know your concern is the fact that after we approve this lump sum budget, how is the division going to happen? So I guess what Mayor Alec is saying is that he has his own individually written out as to how much whoever got. But I think I would prefer that I came up here and only vouch for Inalan and justify for Inalan, and you guys can, rattle my cage, drill me, grill me, whatever, and let me get what I deserve after I'm done justifying. And then also, if I tell you, for example, that I'm going to build a covered gym, and you allow me to get that money, and I don't fulfill that come next budget year, you can hold me accountable to that. And that's why I prefer that methodology as opposed to right now, because since I came in,
It's a good methodology, Mayor. The problem is we don't have that before us. So that just one missing link, that's all. And so maybe we just have to follow up, but I agree, and thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And Mayor Chagloff, I've already asked the President, Mayor Alec, provide us the individual villages so we can sort it out. Like I mentioned earlier, my OFB director did go to the Mayor's Council, try to work it where we can give it by individual village, but when you count all the villages, there was a certain group of villages that challenged it. So we're going to end that, and we're going to try to figure it out, and I'll get with my colleagues, my vice chair, the oversight chair, and the speaker, and we'll figure out how we can give it, because we don't want the building that's being built already to default, okay?
Yep.
And we want to make every village be able to survive.
I totally agree.
Okay, and I'm not going to tell you, you're the front line, you know who you guys are. We just want to figure out a way how we can make sure that funding is distributed, I guess, maybe fairly, and there's some equity here, because it's obvious some villages are, I'm not going to say they're getting more than they should, but I know for a fact there are villages that are not getting what they need.